Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Thank you. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Randana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. And Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa Bhajikacharya Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhajikacharya Ashtottara to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Mukunda, I need a little more on here. It's practically zero. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 14th day of September 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay, let's try it again. On this 14th day of September 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, text 19, page 43. Prakash, get his book. Page 43. Yeah, give him your book and then you get his book. Just give him your book. That's all. That's it. Yeah, text 19. Got it? Okay. Sugosho datarastranam vidiyani vidariyat nabascha patavim chaiva tumalo bhyanunadayan Sugosho datarastranam vidiyani vidariyat nabascha patavim chaiva tumalo bhyanunadayan Sugosho datarastranam vidiyani vidariyat Nabascha pitavim chaiva tumalo bhyanunadayan. Want to try it, Ed? Can you chant? Not you. I'm looking at him. Yeah. I said Ed. I'm sorry. Ed, can you chant? Try it. Sa? Dartarastranam. Sagosho Dartarastranam. Vidyani Vyadariyat. Nabhaschabhitabhim chaiva. Tumalo Bhyanonadayan. Sagosho Dartarastranam. Vidyani Vyadariyat. Nabhaschabhitabhim chaiva. Tumalo Bhyanonadayan. Synonyms. So that Goshaha, vibration, Dartarastranam, of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Vidyani, hearts, Vyadariyat, shattered. Nabaha, the sky, Cha, also, Prithivim, the surface of the earth, Cha, also, Eva, certainly, Tumalaha, uproarious, Abhunadiyan, resounding. But we can turn that off now. Cool off, yeah. Translation. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Just to review, in order to encourage Duryodhana, Bhima, the commander-in-chief on his side, blew his conch shell, and many others blew their conch shells. And on the other side, then Krishna blew his conch shell, and Arjuna blew his conch shell, and all the conch shells were blown, and they said they were transcendental. And the result was that the sons of Dhritarashtra were very discouraged, because that sound heralded their imminent defeat. So it shattered the hearts. Purport: when Bhishma and the others on the side of Duryodhana blew their respective conch shells, there was no heartbreaking on the part of the Pandavas. Such occurrences are not mentioned, but in this particular verse it is mentioned that the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the sounds vibrated by the Pandavas' party. This is due to the Pandavas and their confidence in Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. Okay, let's go on. Text 20. Ata vyavastitan drishtva Dartarashtran kapidvajaha Pravitte shasta sampate Danu urjama pandavaha Vishikesham tadavakyam Idamahamahi. At that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot, bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. Purport: the battle was just about to begin. It is understood from the above statement that the sons of Dhritarashtra were more or less disheartened by the unexpected arrangement of military force by the Pandavas, who were guided by the direct instructions of Lord Krishna on the battlefield. The emblem of Hanuman on the flag of Arjuna is another sign of victory, because Hanuman cooperated with Lord Ram in the battle between Ram and Ravana, and Lord Ram emerged victorious. Now both Ram and Hanuman were present on the chariot of Arjuna to help him. Lord Krishna is Ram himself, and wherever Lord Ram is, his eternal servitor Hanuman and his eternal consort Sita, the goddess of fortune, are present. Therefore Arjuna had no cause to fear any enemies whatsoever, and above all, the Lord of the senses, Lord Krishna, was personally present to give him direction. Thus all good counsel was available to Arjuna in the matter of executing the battle. In such auspicious conditions, arranged by the Lord for his eternal devotee, lay the signs of assured victory. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana-shalakaya Chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So one point to note here is that up until this point on the battlefield, we're basically just reading another chapter of the Mahabharata. In other words, what changes is that Arjuna feels disheartened. He's overcome with material concerns, which are materially good, but it's not good in the context of the battle that's been arranged by Krishna. And so everything is going to change after he sees these who's on the other side and gets cold feet, so to speak. But this point here, which is Srila Prabhupada is making in the purport, that victory is assured for the devotee side. And knowing something about the Mahabharata, you see that it's been quite a struggle to get to this point. The Pandavas were blocked in every way by Duryodhana and company, and they tried to assassinate him in so many ways. And their fortunes look very bleak, especially when they're out in the forest after that attempted immolation in the house of lac. So everything is, has been great difficulty up until this point. But the whole lesson here is that they never lost faith, they never lost heart, because they were always relying on Krishna, and he always came through. He brought them to this point. And now this final battle where Arjuna is getting cold feet, the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita is to convince him to fight and do his duty. But the lesson here that Srila Prabhupada is so nicely describing in this purport, this is important for us also. And Prabhupada himself showed in his life how against all odds came to America, underwent great difficulty, and even after starting the movement there were many difficulties. And oftentimes it seemed insurmountable difficulties. This whole saga of the Bombay temple, and it struggled to get the land and then to build it, it would have been out already, except for you heard about that? It was already at the printer in Bombay, but because of the whole pandemic, the publishing is being delayed. But it's coming out soon. Written by Giriraj Swami. Could be described one of the main protagonists there, if not the main protagonist. So it's a lesson. All of these victories by seeming underdogs who were devotees, and Krishna finally exalts them, and the victory is that much more sweeter because of all that they've undergone and their unflagging faith. The fact that they always had faith in Krishna's protection in the end. So this is another part of the lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. As we learn in the very last verse, you may know, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanodana, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nirti Matir Mama. This is spoken by Sanjay, I believe, and he's describing his ecstasy at hearing the Bhagavad Gita. And he says, wherever there is Krishna, Yatra Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga, the Master of Yoga, and wherever there is Partha, or Arjuna, there will certainly be these things. Tatra Shri, opulence, Vijayo, victory, and Niti, and morality, ethics. In other words, righteousness is on their side. Now, it may not appear immediately. There's all these reverses. But that confidence in Krishna's keeping his promise and doing his work, that we emerge victorious, is central to our practice of devotional service. So let's see what Arjuna says here. Arjuna Vacha Senayoda Bayo Mandye Vatam Stapaya Mechuta Yavaretan Niriksheham Yodhukaman Abastitan Karmaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Vanasamudyame. Arjuna said, O infallible one, addressing Krishna. We probably gave a new meaning to that word. Gradually this will enter into the dictionary. One who can't fall down. Why not? Infallible. He would actually even pronounce it infallible. That's what the word achyuta means. He never falls under the influence of the material energy. Let's see, is achyuta here? There he is. Achyuta at the end of the first line. O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here, who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in the great trial of arms. Purport. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees,
and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As charioteer, he had, so that's a different, that's the original meaning. Doesn't fail, that never fails in his affection. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesha, the Lord of the total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord, and similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. He takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. Since he is master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers. Okay. So now we get cousins and brothers. This was originally cousin brothers, and it became cousins and brothers. But he's got his real brothers there, so we made it cousins. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins. But he was forced to come on to the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he, Arjuna, was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again, and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. So, let's see. This point of, did I do Om Jnana in all of this? I did. Keep forgetting. So this idea that Krishna becomes the servant of his servitor, this is, I don't know if this is present in any other religion. It's such a endearing, understanding. Is that Krishna says, as they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. And everyone follows my path in all respects. Mamavart manavatante manusham parta sarvasha. That, how is it that everyone's following his path? I mean, a lot of people, they're atheists or more or less atheists. They worship someone, they're not worshiping Krishna. What are they doing? Well, he's still reciprocating. There's nothing in this existence that's not Krishna or his energies. So, if someone wants to worship the energy, meaning that they're trying to, eke out some kind of benefit from Krishna's energy, which is what most people are trying to do, materialists, he's reciprocating in that regard. They're, if they have enough piety in their background, they're succeeding to some degree. But then because they're forgetting him, because they're not serving him, eventually the inevitable quality of material nature, which is to cause one suffering and pain and to do exactly the opposite of what you had hoped, it comes out. There's only so long that you can succeed in your attempts to manipulate material nature. And we're seeing that all around us today. It's just that some people recognize it and some people obstinately don't. This whole climate change thing, it's obviously happening, and yet they're just barreling ahead doing the things that have caused it in the first place. Drilling for more oil, selling coal. China's opening up a coal plant every day or something, a new coal electric plant. Let's burn down the Amazon. We can get some more land. We'll raise some cows, slaughter the cows, sell them to the Americans. It's going on as we speak. The Amazon is actually essential for us having enough oxygen to breathe. And they're burning it down. So, Krishna's reciprocating. You're being a nonsense demon, trying to exploit material energy and uncaring for others and being then this is what happens. More and more suffering. But those who are fortunate, who come in touch with the devotee, who read Srila Prabhupada's books, who somehow or other. Brahmande Brahmate Kom Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasare Pai Bhakti Lata Bees. This is a great verse by Lord Chaitanya spoken to Rupa Goswami at the beginning of his instructions, 19th chapter, Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what he's saying is there is that the jivas, we're wandering all up and down different universes, different species. As you want, as you go down and up different species, you might as well be on a different planet. Don't you think that the ants and the bugs and the snakes and the birds, they live on a different planet? Their experience is completely different than ours. You see what I'm saying? It's where your consciousness is at. Even the human beings, they're having a whole different experience, living on this one planet. So we're wandering, different bodies, different, thing, up and down. So he said, Brahmatam Bhagyavan Jeev, the fortunate jiva, soul, by the mercy of genuine Guru and the mercy of Krishna together, gets the seed of the vine of bhakti planted in his heart. What is that seed? That seed is faith and an interest to pursue Krishna consciousness. Come back, open the book again, come back to class, chant the mantra again, don't give it up. Because the material energy is always trying to, make you forget. Think, that was a phase of my life. I lived in the temple when I was 21, 22. Now I'm 47. I like you guys. I really had well, what happened? Why did you stop chanting? I said, material energy became too attractive. Something happened. So the fortunate souls, they get that seed, and then you have to water the seed, because there's all kinds of other bijas in there. A bija is a seed, and a seed is, in this case, is a seed of desire. Meaning, like, you're living your ordinary life, people living ordinary life, and all around them, the commercialized atmosphere, they're trying to plant desire seeds in your heart. Through the advertising, even through the education, material energy is planting these seeds. And you go with it, because you're associated with others who've had this, some result from this particular line of activity, whatever it may be, So those are said to be weeds. When we get that bhakti lata going, the lata means a creeper or a vine, then these other creepers have to be starved out, pulled out, just like in a garden. If you're growing some nice tomatoes, you can't have a whole bunch of weeds growing and taking up all the energy. You have to pull them out, right? Or somehow don't water them, So this is the material energy, and the fortunate souls who are beginning to turn their face to Krishna, he makes all arrangement to try to encourage them. He sends great devotees like Srila Prabhupada, and he arranges miraculously to this movement to flourish, so that there's a temple. If you happen to be interested and you're living in a place like SanDiego, which like 50 years ago had no temple, or say, 60 years ago, say, just to be on the safe side. If you became interested in SanDiego at that time, through reading the Bhagavad Gita that you got out of a library, what are you going to do with that interest? But now, or since, when was it? Early 70s, when the place was founded. There was a way to pursue it. Oh, look. I see in the yellow pages. You remember the old yellow pages? Some of you are too young for yellow pages. You look in the yellow pages. Hare Krishna. Oh, look. As I say, Hare. Third and Thorn. Let me go down and see it. Were you there? I saw the temple. Back in '75, I was there. So the point is that the manifestation of that temple was a result of an effort, the great effort of Srila Prabhupada and his followers to found it, pay the money, maintain it, all the things. So by the effort of the devotees, Krishna working through the devotees, you're able to actually come in touch with the genuine thing and have that vine watered properly, so it can be nourished. So that's that. So Krishna is serving us. You're trying to approach him. You don't even know what you're doing. You just found the book, the genuine Bhagavad Gita as it is. But that's a great service to read this book. You're approaching him through the words of this pure devotee, and so he's reciprocating right off the page, giving us the instruction. We're also on the battlefield. The time and space doesn't matter. What matters is your receptivity. how your heart is hearing the message. So if we're reading and we're absorbing and we're relishing and we're trying to put into our lives these instructions, then we're getting Krishna's mercy, and he's serving us. He's making, we're serving him, he's serving us. That's what bhakti means. You look it up in the dictionary. I work with words all the time. What is the real meaning of the word bhakti? And there's so many different meanings for these words. And the first one was divide. Now, wait a minute, that can't be right. Let me keep going and see what's up with the other. And so it means reciprocation. It's not just service. It's service and reciprocal response from whoever served. That's what bhakti means. And that's what real religion is, to try to approach God in the proper way and feel that he's approaching you, to really feel the reciprocation. And to do that, you have to do it in the right way and in the right means. So, okay, any no questions? We'll go on. So now we'll see what happens here to Arjuna. And this is all Krishna's arrangement. Arjuna is a pure devotee, he's a friend of Krishna's, but so the Bhagavad Gita can be spoken, he's covered over. So the Bhagavatam could be spoken, Parikshit was cursed by this fallen Brahmin boy. You know the story. All right, text 23. Yotyamanam aviksheham ya etetra samagataha Dhartarashtrasya dhurbuddhe yodhe priyachikirshavaha. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Purport. It was an open secret that Duryodhana wanted to usurp the kingdom of the Pandavas by evil plans, in collaboration with his father, Dhritarashtra. Therefore, all persons who had joined the side of Duryodhana must have been birds of the same feather. Arjuna wanted to see them on the battlefield before the fight was begun, just to learn who they were. But he had no intention of proposing peace negotiations with them. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of victory because Krishna was sitting by his side. All right, going on. Sanjaya Vacha Eva Mukto Rishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata Senayodabayo Madhye Stapayit Varatottamam. Okay, now here's another added meaning Srila Prabhupada gives to the word midst. In the midst, between. You'll see. Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. Purport. In this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesh. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesh. You can see the Gudaka, Isha, the master of sleep. Sleep also means ignorance. So Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee. Either in waking or in sleep, a devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna constantly. This is called Krishna consciousness, or samadhi. As Rishikesh, or the director of the senses and mind of every living entity, Krishna could understand Arjuna's purpose in placing the chariot in the midst of the armies. Thus he did so and spoke as follows. Bhishma Drona Pramakata Sarvesham Chamahikshitam Uvacha Parta Pashyaitan Samavetan Kurunita iti. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, Just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here. Purport. As the supersoul of all living entities, Lord Krishna could understand what was going on in the mind of Arjuna. The use of the word Rishikesh in this connection indicates that he knew everything. And the word Partha, meaning the son of Pritha or Kunti, is also similarly significant in reference to Arjuna. As a friend, Krishna wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Pritha, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he, Krishna, had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such things from the son of his aunt Pritha. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. Okay. Tatra pashyat sthitan partha pitrin atapitamahan archayan matulan bratrin putran pautran sakings tata shvashuran suridaschaiva senayorabayorapi. So now we're going to learn the Sanskrit for all kinds of relatives. There Arjuna could see, within the midst of the armies of both parties, his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. Purport. On the battlefield, Arjuna could see all kinds of relatives. He could see persons like Bodhisattva, who were his father's contemporaries, grandfathers Bhishma and Somadatta, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Shalya and Shukuni, brothers like Duryodhana. Notice that there's a total conflation of the brothers and the cousins. So we just left that. Brothers like Duryodhana, sons like Lakshmana, friends like Ashwatthama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. He could see also the armies which contained many of his friends. Tan samiksha chakaunteya sarvan bandhu navastitan kripaya padaya vishto vishidan idamabravit. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna vacha Dristvemam swajanam Krishna Yuyutsum samapastitam Siddhanti mamagatrani Mukam cha parishishyati. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up." Purport. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods, whereas the non-devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party, foreseeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver, and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. This overwhelmed a kind devotee like Arjuna. Although it is not mentioned here, still one can easily imagine that not only were Arjuna's bodily limbs quivering and his mouth drying up, but he was also crying out of compassion. Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft-heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, I'll say you say, Yasyasti bhakti bhagavadgita kinchana sarvar gunais tattva samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manondatena satidhavato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy. Bhagavatam 5:18-12. So this is interesting here in that Arjun's compassion, his reluctance to fight, is described in one sense as a very good quality because it's showing his soft-heartedness as a devotee. Now you don't normally think of a seasoned warrior who's already killed countless enemies as having a soft heart, but he does have a soft heart, and because he's a devotee, and because he has this relationship. In other words, he knows them. He knows so many of the others on the other side. He's shared so many experiences. But what's really amazing, and which he expressed in text, will express in text 7 of the next chapter, or not this text 7, but the verses that come after it, and that is that he says, "Oh, who needs this battle? If the sons of Dhritarashtra, this Dhartarashtra, we keep coming on. Just a little, 30 seconds for the Sanskrit. We have the word Vasudev, and the son of Vasudev is Vasudev. We have the word Prita, and the son of Prita is Partha. You see that? So similarly, you have the word Dhritarashtra, and the sons of Dhritarashtra are the Dhartarashtrans. This is how the Sanskrit makes the distinction here. So, but he says in the next chapter that I don't want to live without the sons of Dhritarashtra. These are the same sons headed by Duryodhana who had all these plans to kill them, made great efforts, almost annihilated them along with their mother. They didn't care, burned them to. So in spite of all of that, he's still forgiving. This is the real sign of a Vaishnava, is that he's able to forgive these things, But in the larger context, this is, he'll be chastised by Krishna for having this quality, because what he's doing is he's putting his duty aside, and especially Krishna's desire, by deciding not to fight, and that's a sign of being covered by the material energy. So Arjuna is put into this ignorance so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken, and so that we could also be enlightened by hearing it. Same thing with Pariksit. It was very unusual. If you know the story, he was out hunting in the forest, and it was hot, and he was very thirsty, he was hungry, and he comes across this little cottage where this Muni, Samika Rishi, was meditating. And he's a Kshatriya, and then Samika Rishi is a Brahmin, so he's a different class, but because he was in this state, and Krishna put him in that state, when he didn't get a response, he's in samadhi, so he wants a little water and a little food, but because he didn't even get a response from this meditating Brahmin yogi, he insulted him by putting a dead snake on his shoulder, and then he left and went home. Now on his way home, it describes that he was regretful. He said, "Oh, what have I done? I've insulted this great devotee." So, and by the time he got home, he learned that the Brahmin's son had learned about it. He came and he saw his father. He became very angry. What is it, Kshatriya? He's in a lower caste than us. And he cursed him. He had the power to curse. He didn't have the full, Brahminical understanding and tolerance. So this was the beginning of the fall of the Brahminical class. Kali Yuga is about to begin. So Pariksit was so exalted a devotee, he could have counteracted that curse, or just prayed to Krishna to please counteract. But he didn't do that. He took it as a blessing. Gave up his whole kingdom on the spot, took off his kingly clothes and his simple clothes, sat down by the Ganges, and all kinds of great sages and everything gathered, and then Shukadev came, and for 7 days didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't drink water, just sat there and listened to the Bhagavatam. And, that's how it became manifest. I mean, it had been written by Vyasadeva, and Shukadev had heard it, but he was adding his poetic beauty to it. So it was even asked, he was doing such a good job as the king. He had held off Kali. He had already encountered Kali beating the legs of the bull, personified, the Dharma personified in the form of a bull, and the cow, they were being. So he was keeping Kali at bay. So now he's just giving up his kingdom. What's that? Greater cause. Manifest the Bhagavatam. So this is what's happening here. Now this verse Prabhupada would often quote, Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana. I think it's spoken by Prahlad in the fifth canto. Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana. A Kinchana, one who has no property, who is a pure devotee. Sarvaiganais Tattva Samasate Sura manifests all godly qualities just by being a devotee. But one who is not a devotee, Harava Bhaktasa, how can there be any good qualities in such a person? Because he's always on the chariot of the mind. The mind is always dragging him here and there, and he's conditioned, and he may go anywhere. He can go overwhelmed by the mode of passion and ignorance like that. So he's always running out. The mind is running on this chariot in the material world. That's a very important verse. Okay, let's do one or two more. Vepatush chasharire me Romaharshas jayate Gandhivam shrunksate hastat Tvakchaiva paridahyate. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandhiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body, and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Now it's understood, although we didn't mention it here, but we try to put it in elsewhere. This is bodily hair. It's not head hair. I swear, when I was a new devotee and I read this Bride of Frankenstein, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. You saw it. You remember it. No. It's just bodily hair. Two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There's no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandhiva was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All of these are due to a material conception of life. So I read somewhere where Arjuna declared that anyone who suggests that I put my bow down is my enemy, and you better watch out. He's going to shoot him. So here the bow is slipping from his hand. It's a sure sign that he's incapacitated. He can't fight, obviously. So he's describing these symptoms now. Very dramatic. Nacha shaknom yavastatum Ramativa chame manaha Nimittani tapashyami Vipaditani keshava. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Purport. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam dvitiya benaveshita syat. Bhagavatam 11.237. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimittani vipaditani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Now, it's interesting. What's going to happen now is that he's going to present a whole argument for why he shouldn't fight. It's not just that I can't fight. I'm too overwhelmed. I love these people too much. He's got a whole reasoning behind it, all based on the Vedas. If I kill them, what will happen to their wives and dependents? I'll be responsible for all these children growing up uncared for, and in Varna Sankara, there'll be unwanted children, and I will be the cause of degradation in society, and I'll get all the sinful reactions, you know. And the Shraddha ceremony won't be performed, and the Pitris won't be satisfied, and there'll be calamity all over, all because of me. And who cares about the kingdom? You know, at the beginning of the second chapter, he says, what do I need this battle for? I'll win the kingdom, but it'll be soaked with the blood of the people who I love. How can I enjoy it? Better that I go off to the forest and become a beggar, you know. But of course, he didn't actually do that. In other words, that would have changed the whole story, wouldn't it? No, he thought better of that and said, now I realize I'm confused. That's the thing. I don't know what's best for me. Please instruct me. Not as a friend, but as a guru. So that I'll be receptive to your instruction. It changes the whole relationship. So but now he's presenting his argument. It's a whole thing. Okay, let's do one or two more here. 31, right? Nacha shreyo napashyami hatva swajanamahave nakankshe vijayam Krishna natarajang sukhanicha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live in a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore he considers himself fit to go to the forest to live a secluded life of frustration. Okay. So we'll stop there because there's a long verse coming up. And we'll pick that up tomorrow. But we have time for a couple of little shlokas. Let's see. Vidachaya mahidandam dinabando dayangva gatadihina bhavakta kachadunya mamasti nipatata shatakoti nimalangvan navambas tatapakila payodakstuyate chatakena. The Chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair, and so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chataka, I've fixed my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you give, or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. A very important instruction there. And that is that the devotee, even though there may be some reverses and difficulties in life, never gives up on the Lord. Always realizes that whatever I'm suffering is due to my own sinful acts, and Krishna has minimized it. You know, could have been much worse. I lost my leg, but I could have lost both legs, or I could have been killed. Or, you know, I cut my finger, it could have been worse. Let's leave it at that. So, in that way, you never lose faith. You see even the reverses as positive, like Kunti did. You know, let us those dangers happen again and again, because by experiencing the dangers, we feel closer to you. Our meditation on you is more intense, and so we experience your presence. So they're good, you know. So that's the attitude of a devotee, and this Chataka gives the example: never giving up on the source of sustenance. which we know is Krishna, even though there may be some difficulties in maybe verses. Okay, we'll leave it at that. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.